Well, hello. I thought since we have, because of the rising COVID cases, decided to discontinue Wednesday nights for now, and even the Bible class on Sunday morning, thought I would still try to put something out there for you on Wednesday nights. So this will be an opportunity, and I'll get this posted later today. But anyhow, I hope your week has gone well so far. I personally have been enjoying the weather. It's just been beautiful outside. But anyhow, what I want to leave with tonight is it's from Proverbs 14, and it's verse 29. And it says, "Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly." Okay? And probably if we want to work on those words a little bit, slow to anger, maybe we could transpose that over to somebody that shows patience. And in fact, I think the NIV translates it as patience, I believe. But it's somebody that has patience. And but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. Maybe instead of the word folly, we might go with something like stupidity. In other words, you just wind up being stupid if you rush to anger. It just usually doesn't wind up working well. So think of it maybe in terms of patience, and how do we do that? Because the reality is, in life, it's easy to get frustrated. Probably you sense frustration daily. It'll just well up in you. I mean, it just comes. It just comes very easily to us. And we live in a time where instant gratification seems to be the norm, and it seems to be what we're pushing towards. And the culture rewards instant gratification, and it makes sense. If you can get something faster in one place than you can another, you're probably going to shop there. You're going to do it. I guess try to take a positive approach to this. I've just been amazed at how fast deliveries can happen. I know the COVID stuff slowed it down for a while, but I'm seeing things pick up. There's some things I've ordered on Amazon, and I've seen the little trucks running around town, even here in Covington, where they're making deliveries and they're dropping things off. And sometimes it's next day, which is pretty amazing to me that you can order something now online, and depending on what it is, you can get it next day. But we're used to our food coming quickly and easily, dealing with traffic. Frustrations can rise there, and it can be a frustrating experience. You can feel it rise, but one way to go down this road is talking about how blessed we are and how thankful we should be and all that sort of thing. I don't want to do that. I've talked about that in the past in other ways, in various ways, and preached about it and all. But the thing is, if we will learn to exhibit patience, or we'll be slow to anger, we're going to find that we start to understand some things. And also, I think you can take the reverse of that. If you'll learn to try and understand some things, you might find that you have patience. And here's what I mean. Let's explore this in several ways. One of which, the reality is, some things in life are just difficult. Some things are just hard. There's just some things that are hard to do. And in other words, let me give an example of like school. There are just some things that are just tough, like trying to learn some subjects. There are just some subjects that are tough. And for different people, there are subjects that seem to be tougher than others. And one of the things that I learned in life is that, and one of my struggles in school is that there were just certain subjects that did not come easily to me. Math was one of them. And I had a high school math teacher, and one time here's how he described me. He said, "Barry, you have a mind like a bear trap." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, it takes something big and hairy to spring it. But once it's sprung, you've got it." In other words, I was never the fastest in the room to get mathematical concepts. But once I understood them, I had them. I was there, and there was an accomplishment. But the reality was, it might take me longer than everybody else, because I was never, in terms of math, well, I was never the smartest one in the room in anything I ever took. But especially in math, it was just never something that I grasped quickly and easily like other people would. I've had to study languages in over my career in school, and languages did not come easily to me, and it was always frustrating to see those that it did. But I just had to realize something about myself, is that I cannot get frustrated. I can't get angry. I've just got to keep plugging at it. And if I'll do that, the understanding will come. but it's just not going to come quickly. And so that's one of the ways in which I think we let our frustrations lead us into stupidity, is we seem to think, you know what, if I don't get this the first time, or if I don't get this as easily as somebody else, I just need to give up on it. And that's wrong. That's wrong. Now, that doesn't mean there are times in life there's certain things that may not be for you and you need to walk away from them. But I see too many times that we do it. I see more opportunity. I see more things happen where people give up opportunities because it just doesn't seem to come easily. They get frustrated too easily with something. They don't stick it out. They don't learn it. And maybe whatever it is they're doing is in a hard subject. And you know what? The rewards would be so much better if they would just stick it out and not get the frustrated, and that they will come to that understanding. It's just not going to come immediately and as fast as you would like. So that's one area where I think if we will learn to be patient, if we will learn to not get frustrated easily, if we will learn to be slow to anger, we can advance ourselves in life. We can make some things happen better. One of the things I also know in life is that people can be a source of frustration. And people take time. There are some people that just take time. I've known people that really, it took a long time to get to know them, or maybe they even seemed difficult. But if you gave it enough time, you started to realize that there's a lot of depth to this person, and you get a broader understanding of life and of them, and you actually find that you learn some things. I've known people in my life that it took some work and some patience to get to know and to get to understand, but in the end, it was worth it. It was worth it. So you've got to do that sometimes. And another thing I want to remind us about people and not rushing to anger or having patience, is you never really know what's going on in a person's life. And so when you don't really know what's going on in a person's life, take some time and some caution and some care there, because sometimes there's things going on you don't know about, you're not aware of, and that can mean a lot. That can mean a lot, because I've had it happen to me, things going on in my life, and people rush to judgment on me, or they get angry, and it's frustrating to be, falsely accused or treated in a way that's not right simply because you're not at your best at that moment, or things like that. But people take time too. You've got to really exert a lot of patience with people. You've got to do that. And here's one of the things that I want to do with that second part said about sometimes understanding helps us to be more patient. One of the things I've learned in life is trying to understand where another person's coming from, or the thing they're dealing with, can help give you some patience. And let me give you a concrete example of that. I've been watching a little bit some of these Amazon trucks, I mentioned them earlier, running around town. And you know what? I have to say, I am sympathetic to delivery drivers in this town and out in the country. It is confusing. There are some places on the maps, because everybody uses their phone now. They use Google Maps or whatever there's just stuff that's just plain labeled wrong. It's just flat out labeled wrong. And so they think they're at the right place. And it is not easy sometimes in this town to figure out exactly, or in this area, in this county, some of these county roads and things, it is not easy to figure out where it is you're supposed to be going. And so I've learned that by understanding that, have a little more patience with some of the drivers and some of the obstacles and things they're up against. In addition to, I have a feeling if we knew the real story, they've probably got a whole lot of deliveries they've got to make. Probably they're under a lot of pressure. And because they're under a lot of pressure to get all these deliveries made, and I'm sure the company that's hiring them is trying to squeeze every little bit out of them that they can. And they're probably on edge about their job, because if they don't get enough delivered, and there's probably ways the company's tracking them all the time now, because now they can do it. It's amazing how the company can track you. And so they know where you are and how long you were there and all kinds of stuff. And there's got to be a lot of pressure on those people to perform, because I'm sure the delivery companies are trying to get deliveries done as cheaply as possible, because prices need, So I'm trying to have a little bit of sympathy for not rush to anger, because I'm trying to understand. I think sometimes another way that we can, with a little understanding, we can not rush to anger is, I just always express it like this: don't shoot the messenger. I've just seen too many times that somebody is the one that has to deliver the message, because it's their job to deliver the message. And people blow up at them, and they chew them out, and they get angry with them, and they just tear them up, when the reality is they don't need to be mad. They need to have an understanding. It's not that person that made the decision. And chewing them out, they have no power over the decision. And so I guess some people think it makes them feel better to vent their frustrations on them. But no, the reality is you need to go to the one that made the decision. Have a little patience, have a little understanding and a little patience with the person who is just simply the messenger. It doesn't do any good, and it doesn't help them in any way to go after them. Go after the one that made the decision. Take it out on them if it has to be taken out on them. It's like, something I learned kind of watching is I also feel kind of in a way some sympathy for garbage men. I mean, they do, think about the vital service they do in our community, come in and collect our garbage. That's it really is, it's vital. It's amazing how much garbage we produce. And like one of the things I learned is that how much it helps those guys. Because again, they're probably under a lot of pressure. They got a bigger route they got to run that day. Just make sure you bag things and you bag it in a way that's not too heavy and stuff like that. And like one of the things that occurred to me is we had a couch we needed to get rid of one time. And I thought, if I put that couch out there, they're probably not going to take it. Or if they have to take it, it's probably... So what I did is I said, I tell you what, I'm just going to tear this thing apart. And so what I did is I just took all the cloth off of it. And then at that point, once you got all the cloth off, you can bag it. And what I'm getting at is that I slowly took that couch apart in pieces and a little bit each week. I think it took me about 3 or 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly. And I got rid of all of it, and it never was a challenge to those garbage men. Now, they probably never knew what I did. And interesting little side note to that, I never thought of this. It was one of those sleeper couches, which is another reason why it was hard to get rid of. You know how much metal, at least this was an older sleeper couch, you know what? I saved a lot of the metal out of that. They had some nice little pieces of angle iron, and I've used that through the years. It's been interesting. Of course, I'm a pack rat. So it's hard for me to throw things like that away, but it's been amazing to me how over the years I've used some pieces of the metal that I took off that couch. But I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking. Point I'm getting at is that, if you have a little understanding for them, it gives you some patience with them. And you know what? There's ways you can make their life easier. And then I could go down the road to food servers. People get frustrated with food service, those type of things. Have a little patience. They're people too, and truth is, a lot of times food servers are working a job that you don't want to do. And so I always try to remember that, and I try to tip well and to be a good customer as much as possible. And then I want to end it up by just saying that one of the areas in life that we've got to be slow to anger and work on understanding is with God, because it's very easy, I think, sometimes for us to get frustrated and to get angry with God, especially when things aren't going our way. And I'm trying to think of it like a good biblical example of that. The story of Joseph still is one that amazes me, or I always find interesting. In the last part of Genesis there, the last chapters of Genesis, you get into the story of Joseph. And the quick overview is, he's sold by his brothers into slavery. He winds up in Egypt. He's apparently a good slave because that's what he's sold to be. And of course, he winds up in the house of this man Potiphar. Potiphar's wife lies about him, says he attacked her. He gets sent to prison. In prison, he does well, so to speak. He rises up and does well there. And he eventually comes to the attention of Pharaoh, serves there, and then his brothers. There's a famine in the land. And of course, Joseph is put in charge of food production because he was able through dreams to predict the famine. And he's put in charge of food production by the Pharaoh in Egypt. So Egypt has food when nobody else does, and his brothers and his family end up coming down to Egypt and living there. That's the quick version of it. And of course, the thing is, at first the family doesn't know who he is. It's been too many years. I'm sure his style of dress is very different as an Egyptian than it was as a Hebrew and all that sort of thing. But I know there had to be times in Joseph's life when there was great frustration and probably some anger. But yet at the end of Genesis, what happens is it's near the time for Joseph and his brothers, their father, Jacob, to die. And the brothers are worried that once their father dies, that then Joseph will take his revenge on them. And so, anyway, this comes out. But Joseph said, here's what Joseph said. This is in Genesis 50, beginning in verse 19. Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God?" Now, you pause on that one right there. We could preach about that for a moment, couldn't we? Are you in the place of God? Because if you're not in the place of God, you might need to exhibit some patience in some things. because very often we like to think we are God. But anyway, I'll leave that alone. Here's what Joseph goes on to say. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. In other words, I think I'm safe in saying this, and everybody can agree with me. When Joseph's been in prison because he's been falsely accused by Potiphar's wife of trying to attack her, I have a feeling there was not a lot of understanding about what God was doing. But Joseph continued to do the things he was supposed to do, and in other words, he's an older man, and that he can look back over life and go, yeah, I can see how God was at work, and I can see how patience paid off, and I can see how not blowing up and losing it and making my situation worse helped out in life. So, you know what? Show some patience. Don't be easily angered. And you might be surprised if you'll try to do that and then seek understanding, what you'll learn about. Ask what it is that you should be learning right now instead of blowing up. What is it that I should be doing? And again, it just takes me back to that old thing I've said time and time again. What can I do here in this situation that would make it better instead of worse? Because very often all we do is we make it worse. And if you can do that, then I really believe you'll find that you have more understanding in life. It's just some things take time. Some things take time to understand, whether it's math or whether it's what God is doing in this world and in your life. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope the rest of your week goes well.